Not all neutrals age the same. Some evolve, some quietly stall, and some start creating friction in real homes long before anyone realizes what went wrong. Today I'm ranking 8 of the most popular Benjamin Moore neutrals from worst to best. This isn't emotional, it's performance-based. I'm judging these on undertone stability, lighting behavior, compatibility with modern materials, depth, and longevity. In other words, which of these actually hold up in 2026. Let's start at number 8. Gray Owl had serious momentum. It felt cool without being icy. It felt designer gray that wasn't aggressive. But here's the issue. It's unstable. Gray Owl is one of the most lighting reactive neutrals Benjamin Moore makes. In bright, balanced daylight, it looks refined and contemporary, but once you introduce warm LED lighting, beige toned stone, honey oak floors, or creamy trim, it starts shifting. Sometimes it leans a bit green, sometimes it flashes faint blue, and sometimes it just dulls out completely. The problem isn't that it's cool, the problem is that it's kind of inconsistent. A neutral should really anchor a space, in my opinion. When a color changes personality depending on the time of day, it stops feeling intentional and starts feeling unstable, like a nuclear reactor. Gray Owl can look incredible in the right house. I've seen it done well many times, but it demands perfect alignment. And most homes don't have perfect alignment. That's why it lands at the bottom for me for these popular neutral colors, not because it's ugly, but because it's unreliable. When you're choosing a whole home neutral, stability matters more than trend appeal. Gray Owl doesn't give you that consistently. Revere Pewter was revolutionary. It bridged beige and gray when that bridge didn't exist yet, and now there's all kinds of grayish bridges everywhere. It made transitional design feel cohesive, and it absolutely earned its reputation. But here's the honest truth in 2026. It can feel slightly stuck between eras. Revere Pewter is not warm enough for today's richer mushroom tones. It isn't cool enough for sharper contemporary interiors. It sits in the messy middle that once felt innovative, but now just seems transitional in the literal sense, like it belongs to the in-between period. Not very current. And in homes with heavy wood tones and warmer metals, it can look slightly flat. In cooler homes, it can look faintly muddy in a way. It still works, but it doesn't feel as resolved as newer neutrals with clearer identity. It's not failing, it's aging. Kind of like me. Ooh.
Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Have you seen some of my thumbnails? Crow's feet and... oh well. I'm embracing it. I did not pluck out the white hairs in my beard. Salt and pepper, baby. Edgecomb Gray is pleasant. It's approachable, it's friendly, and that's part of the appeal. But it also kind of lacks depth. In a lot of modern interiors, especially ones with layered textures and warmer woods, Edgecomb Gray to me can feel a bit thin. It doesn't collapse the way Gray Owl can, but it also doesn't add much richness. It just plays it safe. Where Edgecomb Gray struggles is dimension. It doesn't shift dramatically, which is good, but it also doesn't create much atmosphere. In bright rooms, it can read very flat. In darker rooms, it can feel a bit muted. It's a good neutral, but in 2026, good isn't enough to climb higher in a ranking like this. There are more interesting, more stable, more layered options available. Balboa Mist is where things start to improve for me.
Nothing is real if you don't believe in who you are!
It has a little more nuance than Edgecomb Gray. It carries a subtle depth that feels more intentional. But Balboa Mist has some of that sensitivity. In certain lighting conditions, especially rooms with cooler artificial lighting or a lot of reflective surfaces, it can lean faintly violet because of its taupey quality. Not dramatically purple, but enough to notice if you're sensitive to undertones. This undertone sensitivity is what keeps it kind of middle of the pack for me. When it works, it's lovely. When it doesn't, it feels slightly off. A top tier neutral should be difficult to destabilize. Balboa Mist still requires a little bit of awareness. Pale Oak is elegant. It's soft. It bridges warm and cool gracefully. It's a favorite for a reason. But Pale Oak is lighting dependent. In those bright, airy homes with plenty of natural light, it looks beautiful. Balanced, subtle, layered, and also a bit nuanced, which I really enjoy. In darker rooms or more spaces with heavy artificial lighting, it can look a little bit muddy as well. I do find it performs extremely well when the environment supports it. It's one of those high risk, high reward choices. But the thing is, it is not bulletproof. That's why it sits just outside the top 3. It's strong, not the most stable of the bunch, but when it works better than most colors. Collingwood is one of the most interesting lighter neutrals Benjamin Moore offers. It has depth, it has quiet richness, it feels thoughtful. Unlike Edgecomb Gray, it doesn't feel thin either. And unlike Gray Owl, it doesn't collapse under warm lighting. It carries itself very well in modern interiors with those wood tones and those warmer metals. Where it can lean slightly cool in certain spaces, it still feels resolved. It doesn't look confused, it looks intentional. Collingwood earns its spot because it combines personality with relative stability. It doesn't scream, it doesn't disappear, it holds its own. And it's why I used it in my main living area, because of the fact that I'm connecting a bunch of natural wood tones and then a more gray kitchen. Collingwood connects the dots beautifully. Mwah. White Dove earns this spot on performance. White Dove remains one of the strongest warm whites for cabinetry because of how it balances softness and clarity. It has warmth, but it doesn't tip aggressively yellow. It has depth, but it doesn't look heavy in shadow lines. Under artificial lighting as well, it stays composed. It doesn't go chalky. It doesn't feel sterile. Where White Dove struggles, however, is in ultra-modern, high-contrast environments that demand brightness and sharpness, which I will say is kind of few and far between nowadays. A lot of people are leaning more into natural textures and warmth, so maybe not the biggest issue in the world. It isn't a crisp architectural white, it is a layered white. It wants warmth nearby. It wants texture and dimension, and in that setting, it looks amazing. On cabinetry especially, it performs very well because it holds depth without overwhelming the space. It supports materials instead of competing with them, and that's why it remains absolutely elite. Not universal, but elite in the right context. Classic Gray wins for stability. Classic Gray is one of the most stable neutrals Benjamin Moore makes. It doesn't swing aggressively warm or cool. It adapts to its environment without reacting dramatically. Under warm lighting, it stays soft without turning completely beige. In bright daylight, it doesn't wash out or flash odd undertones. What makes Classic Gray powerful is restraint. It allows flooring, cabinetry, and stone to lead. It rarely clashes, it rarely demands correction, it doesn't create tension with wood tones or metals. It quietly supports the architecture. It isn't flashy, it isn't dramatic, but that quiet consistency is exactly why it deserves the top spot. In a neutral paint color, stability is power.
I cried power!
Not all neutrals are equal. Some are transitional, some are personality driven, some are stable. And if you're choosing a neutral in 2026, clarity and integration matter more than just popularity. The goal isn't just to avoid mistakes, it's to create something that feels intentional and purposeful 5 years from now, 10 years from now. It's not hard. Just listen to me.